RunDNA has an extensive range of running and walking footwear. They're trusted by podiatrists and physiotherapists. The RunDNA fitter's advice is second to none. Pop into RunDNA, 20 Manton Street, Hindmarsh, or 391 Fullarton Road, Fullarton. They're open 7 days, plenty of off-street parking. If you walk or run, you need to run DNA.
Welcome to Hooked on Sport. This is South Australia's weekly sports wrap, where we uncover the stories, personalities and moments that define sport across South Australia. It's time for Hooked on Sport with two-time Bradman medalist Ben Hook and state golf representative Sophie Hilditch.
Hi Ben, hi Wallace. How's your last week just been?
Cracking week, thanks Sophie. Absolutely cracking. Back on the golf course and hit a couple straight.
Oh, always good.
Fantastic for me, Soph. No golf, but the Mighty Double Blues, the SNFL Premiers, after one of the all-time great years. So, yes, just celebrating this evening after what was a fun event to watch this afternoon. We might get into it a little bit later on. How about your week? This time last week, we were talking about your pending appearance in the State Amateur. How did it go?
Well, a bit of a mixed bag, Cookie. I hadn't actually played a competition in a while, so I started off pretty slow and I actually finished a bit nervy. I finished top 16, went into a playoff and actually lost to my playing partner, who'd been my playing partner for the past 2 days. She birdied the playoff hole and unfortunately I didn't quite make the cut, but Cookie, God, I loved being out there again. I just loved every single moment. I've been missing it.
Can I just clarify? I reckon you were late early, so late day one, early day two. Did you have to wait around for like 5 hours to play a playoff?
Yes, I actually drove back home, waited 5 hours, and then had to drive back up with two players still on the course. One of them actually wasn't live scoring, so I had no idea what she'd done. I didn't know if there'd be a playoff, and I had to re-warm up thinking, I don't know what's about to happen.
There's got to be a better way than that, surely. That seems unreasonable for this level of golf. I understand if it's, I don't know, the final round of a professional tournament, but that seems unreasonable to me.
Yeah, well, the boys actually had a 10-person playoff, the top 16th spot. There was only one spot left remaining, and I actually think 10 for one, and I actually think one of the boys didn't make it in time to make the playoff. So it is a bit of a disappointment.
I've been making some notes over the course of the day about things that I think, I'm probably going to have a little bit of a grizzle about, Sophie, and I might just add that to the list. We've got to do better than that for amateur players to front up and play day two, finish at, what time did you finish, about midday?
Oh, yeah, I reckon it was about 12:30, something along there. I think I teed off at about 8:30.
And then had to return for a sudden death playoff at 5.
Yeah, return, and you also... I mean, it was played at the Vines, and for majority of the people who actually travelled for the event, a lot of them were staying down at Glenelg. So it's about a 25-minute trip, and you have no idea whether or not there's going to be a playoff. There's no text message or anything like that. You've just got to, if you think some scores are looking like they're going to come close, and that's if the girls or the men are live scoring, which is another issue. A lot of people hate live scoring, so won't do it. You've just got to hedge your bets and you've got to drive up and re-warm up and just see what happens basically. And then I think once the girls finished, the last group finished, I reckon we only had about 15 minutes before we then teed off on the first hole for the playoff.
Yeah. All right. Well, a discussion for another day, but that is unreasonable in my mind, and there's got to be a better way, because the only way that is acceptable is if you're the sort of amateur who has nothing else going on in your life except working towards a professional golf career. For someone like you who has a career, Soph, I mean, it's almost untenable to play in it, because you should be able to have the capacity to play a morning round and go to work in the afternoon. That just seems silly to me.
Well, that's exactly what I was doing. I was actually doing some work in the afternoon, and I will admit it was pretty hard to work. I kept following the live score leaderboard, seeing what was happening, and there was quite a few friends that I actually had playing, and you always feel a bit mean when you're watching them, hoping that they at least tie with you so that they can be in a playoff with you. But I was watching the live leaderboard for the majority of that afternoon.
Let's move on, Soph. We have a Geelong versus Brisbane grand final. Your first thoughts?
Look, I'm actually really keen for the Geelong-Brisbane final. It's actually probably the outcome that I wanted. I am going for Geelong. I'm looking forward to it. I think these two teams have showed longevity throughout the season, so I think they are the deserving ones to be in the grand final.
Yeah, fair enough. Two best teams throughout the year. I mean, Crows finished top, so that probably makes them the best team. But I feel like they're the best equipped, best prepared for finals. They played off in that qualifying final, which Geelong won pretty comfortably, but Brisbane looked to have bounced back. I'm worried about the fact that Jared Berry is now probably an out after blowing up that shoulder once again. He's on the sidelines alongside Lachie Neale. Obviously, Tom Stewart is going to miss for Geelong, but gee, you feel like the Brisbane midfield is just a little bit banged up, and that is going to be an enormous challenge for them to overcome a Geelong team that is so versatile. But hey, we're going to have a great grand final, and Brisbane proved last year that you can do it by playing all 4 weeks. Geelong have had a lot of rest. They were very good against Hawthorn, as you'd expect. But yeah, they've had a couple of weeks off. They might not be quite so match hardened. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game. Did you see any of the SNFL grand final today?
I did indeed. It was a runaway by the Sturt boys. I mean, the favourite throughout the whole entirety of the season, so probably not the biggest surprise. But it was a good game still, nevertheless.
Yeah, got out to, 50 points early in the last quarter before Glenelg kicked a couple late, but Sturt were clearly in celebration mode by then. Glenelg threw every punch in the third quarter. They added 4 goals, won, and under normal circumstances in an SNFL game, that's going to get them back into the contest. But Sturt added 7-1 in the same period. It was a fantastic third quarter of football. 11 goals, 2 kicked. I think that compared to 8 goals, 10 in the entire first half. So what a great third quarter it was. They call it the premiership quarter, and Sturt were just awesome throughout. Can I just get one thing off my chest? Channel 7 has managed to do the final presentation and failed to get an interview out of the captain or the coach of the winning team. I find that beyond shameful. Now, there's 2 things that happened here. One is either John Casey, who was hosting it, forgot. I don't think that's the case. I think they had a hard out at 5:30, and they were just so disorganised in the lead up to get the presentation started that they ran out of time, and they just had to cut the speech from the winning captains and the winning coach. And that was absolutely terrible from Channel 7. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, that is incredibly disappointing, Hookie. I actually couldn't stick around for the presentations. I had some family functions on, but that is disappointing to hear. It should be something that's celebrated, hearing from that captain. There should be the speech of thanking the side that you're playing against, and it's in the spirit of the game, and it really should have been broadcasted.
Even if Case had have said, listen, we're tight for time. It's got to be really quick. We had to have heard from them. I was really disappointed by that. A couple of AFLW games over the weekend as well, Soph. Did you see any of Geelong versus Port Adelaide? Geelong get over the line against Port. I thought the Power were absolutely robbed. I don't know if you saw it.
Yep, the decision against Port's Emily Borg. Is that the one you're referring to? I must admit.
It absolutely is. Did you see it? What did you think?
Oh, I did see it. And look, I think it's a bit outrageous. I don't think that was a deliberate rush behind at all. I don't know your thoughts, but look, I think it cost them the game, and I don't think it was a good call.
I put it to you like this, Soph. So it's a young 19-year-old umpire who made that decision. I'm not against people getting opportunities at this sort of level, but I'm frustrated that we have right now, I'm going to say 20 to 25 professional umpires in the AFL who have got their feet up having a rest at the moment because we've only got 2 games a week. In a 4-game system, we need 36 umpires around, and we're down to 10 if you have 4 umpires in a reserve for each game. So there's probably 20 guys that were sitting around, girls as well, who are umpiring AFL, that could have actually been doing these games and weren't. And I just think that is completely inappropriate. This is a new league, but it's a professional competition, and we can't just have developing umpires who are making absolutely elementary mistakes like that. That wouldn't have been given insufficient intent if it was an AFL game with the ball just going out in general play. She was desperately trying to keep that ball in, Emily Ball, and to call that a deliberate rush behind is just, look, I don't blame the umpire. I just don't feel like that quality of umpire should be on the ground when we've got professional AFL umpires who could be doing that job.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think that 19-year-old was only a player last year, so I don't think she's been umpiring that long either. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hookie.
Spot on. No, you've got it in one. No, we don't need to name her, and we've made our point. But no, you're
Mhm.
absolutely right, Soph. This time last year, she had half a foot as an umpire and half a foot as a player. That's fine. Good luck to her.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you should be umpiring AFLW the following year. You've got to have made a bit of a commitment to this beforehand. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I suspect she's probably going to get a bit of a holiday, that young umpire, and Port Adelaide season probably on the brink as a result. Adelaide, gee, they took a time to get going against the lowly Gold Coast, but finally got over the line. So they still stay firmly entrenched in the top eight, Soph. And probably right now you would have to say that Adelaide on the way towards finals, Port Adelaide probably going to struggle after what was an amazing year last year.
Yep, 100% agree, Hookie. Now, talking about Channel 7 cutting off the captain's speech for the Sandfell, what did you have to think about the media following players getting delisted from the Crows and walking them out to their cars? Did you happen to see that?
Oh, I've been right across this all week. It's interesting, isn't it?
Hmm.
So, yeah, what's been happening is players are turning up for their exit interview at the club and get told they're delisted and then have to walk through the waiting media throng to get to their car and depart. Um, yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that the media should be steering clear of this. And look, maybe there is an argument for that. But at the same time, I feel like that there's a greater responsibility on the club to be a bit more caring of the player when they're dropping this news to them.
Hmm.
Just to see Jeremy Finlayson was walking out of Port Adelaide holding a
Mm.
big garbage bag full of all of his possessions when he'd had to clean out his locker and front the media on the way through. And we've seen Lockie Murphy and who's the big ruckman? I should be able to remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue, Wallace. You're going to look it up for me and we'll work it out as we keep going here. But both of them had to front the media straight after. Why are these done at the club? Why can't we find a remote location where these sorts of interviews can be done? Why aren't they doing them late at night after hours when you're not going to have the media turn up there? I actually think it's a responsibility of the club. And this isn't just an Adelaide thing. This is Port Adelaide. This is every club where this goes on. They should be making every effort to take more care for these players. They shouldn't have to front the media in the 15 minutes after they've been told that their career is over. Think there's a better way than the way that's being played out at the moment. You got any thoughts on it?
No, I agree, Hookie. I think it's unfair on the players to have to walk out and obviously hear some disappointing news. Even Tex Walker was getting asked questions whether or not this was going to be his final season, and he's obviously still probably focused on their loss in the finals, and I think that's a bit unfair. I think they should be doing this in a more private location, and I really think delisting should be coming from the club and not the player.
Yeah, Strawn was the ruckman that I was thinking of, so it finally came to me. Hey, let's move on. Just one thing I'm going to talk about with, we probably should have crossed it off before. The Hawthorn-Geelong preliminary final on Friday night. We're both Crows fans. There are plenty of people who listen to are Port fans as well. We should be in tears about how those two clubs structure up against each other in a preliminary final on that Friday night. I just want to give you a list of the players who played for either of the two South Australian clubs and left for either Hawthorn or Geelong. Now, I don't hold the clubs responsible here because in a lot of these situations, the player just wanted to go home, and we get that. But Tyson Stengel went from Adelaide to Geelong, and the Crows gave him away, got absolutely nothing for him. Patrick Dangerfield, Crows got pick 9 plus a few packets of chips. They picked up Wayne Miller with that pick 9. Not bad, but he's certainly not Patrick Dangerfield of the way you saw him play on Friday night. Jack Gunston played for the Crows and then went to Hawthorn. Crows got pick 24 for him. That became, I think, Sam Kerridge, and we gave that up for a draft pick and got Troy Menzel back, who was a complete bust. And then we go to Hawthorn. Jarman Impey was a Port Adelaide player. He got traded for pick 33. Port Adelaide turned that into 2 picks, which was Dom Barry and Joel Garner. They've played 5 games each. Jarman Impey was fantastic for Hawthorn over the course of the finals. And Carl Amon, who was a free agent, went home as free agency. So you can't beat that. That's fine. They got second round compensation pick. They turned that into 3 guys who are all yet to play a game. So Stengel, Dangerfield, Gunston, Impey, Amon. In return, both the teams have got a combined Wayne Miller and not much else. That's pretty depressing, isn't it?
A little bit upsetting to hear, but obviously hooky hindsight is a brilliant thing, and maybe they weren't for the club and maybe they wouldn't have had the career that they had if they'd stayed with the club, but obviously a bit disappointing to hear.
Last week I was talking about Taylor Walker being probably number 3 all time, in my opinion, for Adelaide, behind Rashudo and McLeod.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that Patrick Dangerfield is the greatest player ever to play for the Crows, and spent so much of that time playing wonderfully for Geelong. It just pains me every time I think about it. Let's not think about it. Let's move on. Let's talk about some other news. Can I just do a quick whip around of the grand finals that have played out in community footy over the past couple of days? Because there's been some really wonderful stories. I'll start with the Adelaide Footy League. Port District have beaten Golden Grove. They won that comfortably, so Port District go back-to-back. Division 2, it was Tea Tree Gully over Athelston. They're two very, very big football clubs who are back in Division 1. So it's interesting. Golden Grove, Ross Trevor, Tea Tree Gully, Athelston, all those northeastern clubs, that big area, all going to be in Division 1 of the Adelaide Footy League next year. In Division 3, Westminster Old Scholars defeated Unley Mercedes Jets. So a couple of smaller schools making their way up the grades as well. In Adelaide Plains, Malalar defeated Two Worlds. And the milestone curse has struck again, Soph, because Ned Sekafine was playing his 300th game for Two Worlds. I know Two Worlds were leading that one early as well and got pegged back by Malalar. So the Magpies over the Roosters there in the Adelaide Plains League. In the Southern League, Port Noarlunga got over Happy Valley by 2 points. I love the Southern League. It's my favourite competition, Soph, and I'll tell you why. Some of the nicknames are the best in Australian rules football. Low division baseball in the US is probably the best, and I'll share some of those with you some other time. But in the Southern League, Port Noarlunga are known as the Cockle Divers, Happy Valley are the Vikings, Ranella are the Wine Flies, Noarlunga are the Shoes, Morfett Vale are the Emus, Cove, which is Hallett Cove, are the Cobras. There's a team, Ironbark Cherry Gardens, that are the Thunderers, and Flagstaff Hill are the Falcons. And I'm not making this up. They used to be called the Bush Pigs, and they changed their name for obvious reasons to the Falcons. So love the Southern League. Bit further down the road in the Great Southern League, Victor Harbour defeated McLaren Districts. It's Victor's first flag since 1999, which is pretty incredible when you consider that Victor is such a powerful big club in that competition. Love this story from the Murray Valley League. This is one of those leagues that we're talking about. They only have one team. There's no league in reserves. Murrayville beat Wonka by 41 points. So that was son defeating dad. The Murrayville coach is Keenan Wiltsch. His dad, Mark, coaches Wonka, and the young lads got one over dad. So that's a pretty cool story. In the Hills League, Nan Bremer, they got over Lobethal by 13 points, their second flag in 14 years. And Soph, just to wrap us up, in the KNTFL, Cowrie Naracoorte Tatiara League, Mundalla, the tiny little club that I was talking to you about last week, well, they have done it again. They beat Kingston by 25 points, their 18th flag in 42 years, the mighty Bumblebees of Mundalla. Population 315. How about that?
How great is that, Hookie? Well, I hope you can actually indulge me for a second here, because I know you love talking about the football leagues, and I don't normally comment too much on them. But my partner, Darcy, is actually a Barossa boy, and I think he'd be really angry at me if I didn't mention the grand final over there this weekend. It was the Barossa Gawler Football League. It was Nuriupta, and they won over Williston. But I think it's quite cool. Jared Schiller returned to his junior club of Nuriupta this year. He has played over 250 games for the Central District in the Sandfell, and he's come back and he's won the flag for the first year on his return.
So that's amazing. And I love that you've mentioned Jared Schiller. Do you remember last week on our show, we had Jules Schiller? Jules and I used to do a weekly ABC Sport radio show many, many years ago. But we actually had Jared Schiller come on the show when Centrals were playing West Adelaide. And I managed to rustle up Joshua Schiller, no relation, who played for West Adelaide. So I had the three Jay Schiller boys all together, Josh, Jules, and Jared, all together chatting SNFL football. So that was a bit of fun. So, yes, congratulations to Nuriupta, who have got over Williston in the Barossa League Grand Final. I did have a look at that one as well. So I reckon you also got to the Hockey Grand Finals. How did they go?
I sure did. I actually went out and watched the Hockey Grand Finals. And Ben, I've got to say, It was so exciting out there. The Pines and Hockey SA did a beautiful job at setting this up. There was food trucks, there was drinks, there was everything. There was kids running up and down the hill. It was actually brilliant to see. I was out there watching my eldest brother who plays for the Metro 1, so the Div 2 team, and his team, the Adelaide Peas, did get up. And I think I have to mention that my brother Sam actually scored the 2 goals that got them tied and I think kicked them off. So I will give him a huge congratulations. I'm extremely proud of him. But we've got to look at the Premier League. The Adelaide Peas won in shootouts with SA representative M. Grist shooting the winning goal. And they were favourites throughout the season. So congratulations to the Adelaide Peas. And the men's, the Seacliff Men's Hockey Club won over my hometown, my home club, Burnside. But it was extremely tough conditions. It was raining, but they had a solid win, 5-2 against them. These 2 clubs have gone back-to-back premiership winners, so congratulations. I actually saw the Peas celebration and it looked huge back at the club, the men and the women all getting around it, having a massive club chant. It was really cool to see.
Buried the lead there too, Soph. I just talked about all those footy clubs with incredible nicknames, and Adelaide Hockey Club, known as the Peas. That is one of the all-time great nicknames, isn't it?
It doesn't sound great when all I was shouting out is "come on the Peas." It's just, it doesn't quite have the punch, but I'm getting around it. I've missed my Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs was my favourite name for the Burnside.
Burnside, yeah, that is a solid nickname, isn't it? Wonderful, Soph. Well done. Yeah, and congratulations to Adelaide and the women and Seacliff in the men. Seacliff, clearly the dominant team in the men. Adelaide probably snuck up a little bit, so well done to them. And Emily Grist, what a star she is in the making. Looking forward to seeing the Adelaide Fire. They're only about 2 or 3 weeks away from their season starting in the National League as well, so we'll keep a close eye on them, Soph, that's for sure. Hey, we talked about Matthew Golding, who got sacked as coach of Harndorf Footy Club, despite having won 5 flags from 7 grand finals in 8 years. Well, he's been out of work for a sum total of a fortnight. He just signed with Sacred Heart Old Collegians last week. So Matt Golding, 96 games for Glenelg and a handful for the Crows. He's back in action coaching Shock, so good luck to him. I'm very pleased. Hey, we talked about your time playing in the SAM. Just tell us about the people who were very lucky to avoid you in the match play playoffs, because I'm sure you would have just destroyed everyone. How did it go? We had a couple of South Australian girls who made it through to the semi-final.
Yeah, we had a good turnout from the South Australians, actually, both men and the women. But look, you have to mention the winners first, don't you? So we have Camilla Kim from New South Wales, only 14 years old, first winner of the SA Amateur for her. She actually won on the 21st hole. It took 21 holes to decide that one. And then we've got to look at the men's. It was a perf shootout with Josiah Edwards winning up by 2 holes, an incredible match by all accounts. But let's look at the SA performances. We have Reagan Denton, who we've interviewed before, having a semi-final, as well as Alice Cho as well.
Friends of the show, we like to call them.
Friends of the show, 100%. And I've got to shout out Alice Cho, actually, Hookie. So she played Camilla Kim in the semi-finals. I think she may have lost 3-2, so good turnout. But she actually turned around and went and caddied for Camilla Kim in the grand final. And I think that's super impressive too. She must have been disappointed, but you know what? We're all friends in this game, and I'm going to go out, support my friend, and push a bag for 21 holes. So a shout out to Alice Cho for that. And we've got to look at...
Just before you get off that, I don't really know Alice, but she's a teammate of yours, and she is 14 or 15 or something like that. She strikes me as really mature for her age.
Yep, I think she's 15. She's a mature girl. She's a beautiful girl, so kind, sweethearted. But Hookie, I wouldn't want to come up against her on the golf course. That's when she's not kind. She is brutal, hits the ball an absolute mile, and I'm quite glad that I'm a teammate and not coming up against her.
Oh yeah, well, I don't want to play her either. Let's get that very, very straight.
And for the men, we have from Kooyonga Golf Club, we have Malachi Marshall. Now, I reckon he's quite young. I think that's quite impressive to make it all the way to the semi-finals.
Yeah, he's had an incredible record playing pennant golf in Simpson Cup for Kooyonga as well. So I mean, look, you never really know whether these kids are ever going to make it at the professional level. But yeah, I would argue Alice Cho, Reagan Denton, Malachi Marshall are three that we should be keeping an eye on in the not too distant future. Jack Buchanan's obviously made the step. Caitlin Pierce in the women, and we'd love to see them take that next level and take that next step and start to gain some starts in some bigger tournaments. But they're the next three, I think. They're all very exciting young kids. Malachi's very, very slight and small. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get the distance, the power that you need in men's professional golf these days. But it's going to be interesting. Just very quickly, let's touch on South Australian cricket team went down pretty badly to New South Wales in their opening game as they defend the One Day Cup title that they won last year. So if this game was played at Cricket Central, I mean, this is where cricket goes to die. It is miles out of Western Sydney. It's in absolute whoop. The wicket didn't look great. It really slowed up. 8 of the 10 South Australian wickets fell to spin, so obviously it was getting harder to bat on as that game went along. So look, plenty of the season left. Not a great start for South Australia. We'll obviously be supporting them. They're back in action here in Adelaide against Western Australia on Wednesday. So I'll be at that game, looking forward to it. So we go from a bit of a disappointment to some real success that you've caught up. Couple of sassy lads, Soph.
Yeah, so the Australian under-20s men lacrosse team has just medalled for the first time for the Australians since 2003 at the World Championships, which was recently held at South Korea. The boys took a bronze, and within that team, we have 2 sassy scholarship holders, Hudson Robb and Sean Fullarton. So what an incredible achievement that one was.
So Sean Fullarton is part of the Fullarton dynasty that I was talking to you about last week. Tracy, it's either his mum or his auntie. I can't recall. I should know that. But it might be his auntie, I think, who played her 400th game for Woodville just a couple of weeks ago. Just to wrap up, so if you talked about Aidan Murphy as one of the athletes to keep an eye out for in the World Championships for athletics in Tokyo, had an absolute shocker overnight, poor old Aidan. Australia were in the 4x400 men's relay. They broke the Australian record. It was absolutely incredible. And that excitement turned to absolute heartache because it turned out that Aidan, as he was waiting for his runner to come and hand over the baton, had his foot the wrong side of a blue line. So they swapped the baton in the actual right area. But just because he had started with his foot to the other side of that line, they not only had their time expunged, they were disqualified from the World Championships. So they'd finished third. They were really a chance to make the final. That is just devastating, I think. And I mean, they don't practice these that much, so it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Definitely, Ben. Well, should we move on to Sophie Star and Ben's best?